on. So any moms, any aunts, just whatever, whoever you can give this information to is going to be very significant and important. The link is going to be available for anyone to rewatch. So it's just very special. And it's really about the tools that really impact children growing up. And these tools have a lot to do with how you're treating yourself mostly. So how you treat yourself, how you embody your knowingness, how you connect to them, how you speak to them, that's the most important part. So let me just, okay, there. That's what I was trying to do. Okay, so I hope everyone's doing an amazing day. Here, everyone knows me very well, so I don't think I need to do an introduction, but whoever's watching the rerun, my name is Alexia Landa. I'm a channeler. I connect to guides, to angels, archangels, ascended masters, just anything that's spirit and is connected to love. So I want to connect first and talk about the tool of spirituality. It is very important to talk about that tool because I want everyone to have some sort of connection, visualization about what spirituality is and how it impacts our day-to-day and how it is truly our essence. It is not even something that we need to work on. It's more something that we need to stay connected to in a sense of being aware of. Once you become aware, once you understand the pattern of life, you understand that you are spirit, so you are naturally spiritual. So spirituality is truly just the knowing of life. So if you have life, if you breathe, if you make decisions, if you have feelings, all of that is spirit in action. So a fraction of light is what you are, and there's a whole. There's this whole light that makes everything exist, everything happen. Everything becomes a little fraction, and this physical body that you're in has that little fraction. So if you're around children, they're another fraction, just their physical body grows and expands more into that fraction. It doesn't mean we fully grow fully into the fraction. It just means we expand physically, but we get to, with our feeling, our mind, and our intention, we get to use that fraction in a certain way. And that's what true spirituality is. So since you are conceived, you're already using that fraction in some way or form. And at first, it's by growing, survival, just anything that we know as humans to be. Then we start connecting to emotions and understanding emotions and how that energy moves and how you can exchange it, how you can make it grow, just in anywhere form. So spirituality is using spirit as life. And in this form, in this playground and on earth, it is all about the senses, it is all about the connection, it is all about what you see and you are. And when it comes to children, they come in with a lot of purpose. We've been children, and as we grow into adults, we still are children of children. And that's very important to know. And what I mean with that is that just like we grow and then our parents grow, we are showing that fraction of them. So let's say that when your mom or your dad look at you or your sibling, or if it's just you, that person is looking at a fraction of themselves, a portion of themselves, because everything becomes divided. But that division, it's not separation, it's connection. It's keeping a chain connected, okay? That's very important. So when you see a child, they are connected to something, and that something is energy. And that energy, we call it lineage, we call it emotional connection, we call it many things. So the way you express, the way you treat yourself, the way you co-create the spirit that you are with connection is the way that child is going to perceive life, is the way the child is going to think life is, because that's the example you're giving. So the way you use your spirit, the way you co-create your spirit constantly is the way the child is going to think life exists. It's like the only reality they're going to know. Obviously, when you're a parent, it has a bigger impact. When you're an aunt, it has a different type of impact, and so on. It all depends on the interaction, but it is very important as adults to understand that it is a responsibility, and responsibility is a beautiful thing that we have within us to share wisdom, to share our light, to share an example of expressing our spirit. So we share this example of expressing our either our highest potential, our lowest potential, and nothing is good or bad. It's more about, okay, if I showed that, how can I give it purpose so that you won't carry some sort of burden or heaviness or anything? For example, if you think of your parents and you think they made some sort of mistake, you connect it to purpose instead, and you say, okay, well, I needed to see that example to know what not to do. So you start seeing life very divine instead of heavy. And a child, the first thing you need to connect them to is intention, being very intentional, because their senses, their way of feeling, their way of absorbing is very sensitive. It is the absorption is not about what am I going to do with this? It's more about, oh, you're teaching me life. So I want everyone to understand that a child is not saying, oh, what am I going to do when someone smiles at me? They're they're thinking, okay, so they smiled because I did good. So their reaction is mostly like a integration. That's the word. Integration rather than how am I going to respond? Then they think about how am I going to respond. So their mechanism is very natural. That's the mechanism we should all have, integrating information to then decide how to respond. But once you've had patterns, you just respond. You're like, oh, I already have this pattern that when something does this, I respond like this. So everything has to have an energy of intention. And intention means that the feeling is going to be balanced with the action. If you're mad, if you feel mad, instead of wanting to hide it, to mask it, because the child is going to feel and absorb the intention, the energy, what you're truly going to do is actually embrace, embody it, and show it with some sort of tool that you need. So let's talk about being mad. Okay, my feeling is I'm mad. I need to set an intention because I'm mad at the child. Let's say you're actually just an aunt. You're not even a parent. You're an aunt and you're mad. Okay, what can I do with it? So my intention is not going to be I want to hurt him or her, or I want to get them in trouble, because then I'm dictating something. Well, what can you do? You can communicate intentionally. You can learn how to communicate. You can learn how to use the tool of communication and give, because a child needs some sort of direction, and intention is direction. So every time you're going to express something, have an intention set to give it a direction. And it's always going to be through communication. Silence is a type of communication. So using the communication of silence has to come with some sort of showing why silence is happening. This doesn't mean that you're going to make silence be a bad thing. So you have to show why silence is also a good thing, because it's usually used as something of either avoiding, ignoring, or just like silent treatment. So the intention has to have a lot of communication, because that is their love language at a young age. From 1 to 7, they're absorbing everything they can. From 7 to 14, they start expressing it all with their personality. And from 14 to 21, that's when they actually start being authentically what they're figuring out to be. So how am I going to use everything you all gave me? How can I use this? So communication has to be key, and intention cannot go without communication towards a child. So when I say expressing your spirit, when I say, okay, you're a fraction of light that expresses your spirit, is how am I going to use this light? And when I talked about how you are connected to that other fraction that you come from. So you're connected to your parents, you're half of your parents, a child is half of their parents, and so on. That fraction, that connection, you start understanding the energy they come from. So you have to embrace and embody the energy you come from. You have to understand and have awareness to ask a child to be aware of themselves. So the other tool is being very self-aware of why you do things. And when a child is around, you have to be very self-aware of your patterns. Okay, why do I always feel defensive about this? Why do I always feel protective about this other thing? Why do I always feel like I have to delegate or get someone in trouble about this? Well, you go into your memory bank and you notice, well, in my memory bank, when I did that last time, it was because that child in that time did this or that, or when I was a child, I did this, this, and that. So there's an assumption connected to it. Instead of, again, communication, of asking, why do you think that? Why is that happening? Because as adults, the biggest pattern that happens is the memory bank clouding the communication. And the reason for this meeting today is because I speak to so many parents, and these are the most common tools that I talk about. And right now, there's this almost disconnection to the different languages due to generations. And these different languages are that these new generations are connected to their sensitivity. They truly feel. They don't follow rules. They're not like, oh, okay, rule one, rule two. No, they feel and they communicate their feelings. So as adults, we usually just want to say, okay, you have a feeling, let me give you a rule to what to do with that feeling. Children don't need that anymore. They need guidance, how to understand the emotion and how to understand to process emotions. And right now, many adults don't know how to process emotions. They just know how to give it a rule. They know how to say, oh, that's good or bad. Children now understand nothing is good or bad. It's more of a balance of what purpose am I going to give it? What direction am I going to give it? Because since it has purpose, since it has meaning, because everything is light, then it means that I should do something with it. I have to give it direction, intention. When you give it a rule, you just divide it. That's why I keep saying everything is connected. So when I started seeing that the language is almost disconnected between generations, it just became very aware to me that we need to practice some tools between the generations. And I'm not talking about very far generations. I'm talking about starting in the 88, maybe 89, 90s even, with the new children coming in. So that those are the parents, aunts, uncles, caregivers. So the tool of spirituality is truly understanding that being a fraction of light means that everything you do is spiritual. So everything you do is impacting everything. And the most important part of life right now, all the time, are children, because they're the generation that come in and try to heal the lineage and go through evolution. And as we grow older, they start taking over of the evolution. They absorb our wisdom and then they figure out what they're going to do with that wisdom. So we need to truly integrate that wisdom and decide what has to leave and what has to stay. So it all starts with the intention of, what do I need to let go of? What are those patterns that truly make me focus too much on lack, make me focus too much on being in a hurry, make me focus too much on scarcity, make me focus too much on not being patient, make me focus too much on not slowing down to pay attention what's around. And all those things are what children need the most. They come into your life and what do they ask you to do? Slow down. Pay attention to me. I want to cry. Well, why do you want to cry? Well, because maybe I feel you and I don't know how to communicate it. So they don't know what they're feeling. They just know how to cry. They just know how to express. So when you listen to them, you show them what listening is. Because we teach by example, not by just saying what to do, not just by saying it's a rule. That when you talk, I listen. When I talk, you listen. No, you practice it with them. So they're almost this reminder of what our inner child needed. So you start giving that to yourself and you start really connecting and implementing these tools of simplicity. A child is going to be very simple. And a tantrum, for example, is the most simple way of expressing an emotion. I know 60-year-olds who would love to throw a tantrum because I have clients who say, I just want to scream right now. And I say, well, you want to have a tantrum, that's okay. Maybe you had many when you were little. That was your way of expressing it. So you, instead of telling them you can't cry, you teach them ways how to express those emotions. You don't tell them it's bad to feel. You don't tell them they shouldn't have an emotion. You teach them how to express it, how to release it. And those tools are usually a dancing meditation. Okay, we're going to turn on music. You're going to scream. This is the room where you go scream and you let it out and you dance it off. And once you truly know what you're feeling, maybe tell me a few words. And even if they still don't speak, you start showing them that there's actions to release the energy. And you start doing it by doing it yourself. If your child is having a tantrum and she cannot speak, if your niece, your nephew, anything, a child is having a tantrum, they're still too young, then you put soothing music and you just move them around until they stop. You teach them how, or you do it in front of them. So time is another tool that you start understanding around children. You start understanding that there is enough time to take for yourself, to take 5 minutes to say, why am I mad? Why am I always mad at 12 p.m.? I always blame that it's the food. I'm supposed to be hungry at this time. So why am I always mad? Maybe it's more that alert of I'm mad and frustrated because when I was 8, 9, at 12, I wanted to go to recess and I couldn't because I had to finish homework or I had to finish this. So it's all these build-up tantrums that they become patterns and they become moods and they become an emotion, and an emotion is energetic motion. So it's energy in motion. It's the energy you move in. So you start building these patterns and you think that's you and you identify with them. Children now will not identify with that type of stuff. They're actually going to ask why, when, where, how. They're going to want to break that mold. So they're actually here to teach us. They're here to teach every adult to stabilize their inner team. And the inner team is that feeling, that intention, and that expression. And that's when you teach how to speak, how to be silent in the most intentional way, not seeing things good or bad, not thinking that being mad is a bad thing. No, you can be mad at someone. It's fair to be mad, but it's fair to be mad with compassion. So feel it, see exactly why you're mad. Are you making someone responsible of your feelings? Or are you taking responsibility? And what part is actually theirs? So you start teaching them how to feel through the process. You teach them how to process, not to assume, judge, or have a rule. Because then there's this division between being the good boy, good girl, bad boy, bad girl. Those who want to speak up and defend themselves, they become very defensive. And this is actually very normal when you're going through this healing moment in life, this awakening. You might feel like the rebel and you might feel like you're the bad girl or the bad boy. Your inner child feels that way because you're not going with the process of what everyone accepts or doesn't, so you feel defensive. And that has to do with not being able to balance and process the emotions of it's my responsibility to understand me, to see me, to listen to me, to process my feelings and my emotions and accept them myself, no one else. So you start using that projection of bad or good. Then the good girl or bad boy carry the emotion of resentment because every decision is made based on others. And when you base your decision on others, you're not being fully honest. You're not being clear. You're not being intentional. You're just following a rule. And in life, there's going to be people who see you as the best person and others who are going to disagree with a lot of things you do. But this life is about agreeing to disagree. Because when you do things intentionally, honestly, and you pay attention to the truth, you're going to follow your truth. Everyone's going to live in their role. Some live in the role of victimization, so they're always thinking of the past. Others live in the role of detachment, where there's nothing more important than themselves, so future is all they think about. And when children are around a victim, they're always going to try to make that victim happy and give them more. So their struggle is always going to feel like they're not enough. And the victim role is usually the one that makes someone feel less or don't put your feelings over me, or there's no space for your feelings, or your feelings are too much for me, or I do too much, so I have no time to be there emotionally for you. And the other side, where there's entitlement and selfishness and lack of gratitude, and everything is futuristic, it has a lot to do with someone who wasn't there to explain that everyone has feelings, that everyone has emotions, and everyone carries their own reality within. Because no one can agree at everything. So meeting in the middle means being very congruent, intentional, and truthful, which means communication. There has to be an alignment with your inner team, where you feel, you set an intention, and you action towards it. You don't build rules by it, that it becomes a division. It has to be a connection. And playing a role is always going to create a division. So guiding a child towards authenticity is about helping them understand that life goes in seasons. And seasons doesn't mean that they're always going to change who they are fully. It's about teaching them that if they like an apple today, they cannot like it tomorrow. But if they feel like one of their ways of expression is usually frustration, and you start noticing that since a very young age, that's an expression they have, then you make it a tool and you make it authentic and you say that's part of your authenticity, but you never use it against you, you use it for you. So you make it a tool. You say, okay, how is frustration a tool then? Well, frustration can be a tool if you use it at the right time and the right place. It can actually give you more energy to be motivated. So whenever they feel frustrated, you say, okay, what are you frustrated about? About something you can't control? What can you control right now? Well, you can control drawing. Do you want to draw? You can control going into the shower. So what do you connect them to? Motivation of living, of experience, instead of frustration of controlling what's external. You go internal and they get to decide They understand they get to decide something, not maybe what they wanted, but what they needed. So that's when now I'm going to talk about needs and wants. And this is so important even for us as adults. It's the first step to embodying a healing journey, because healing is not a lifetime thing. Healing is a moment. Healing is a season. It's a season you go through, and once you heal and you embody it, you start connecting to a higher potential within yourself. But you don't necessarily have to go through a dark night where you have to remember the past or have to remember your past lives. You actually have embodied that. So now it's just about adapting and connecting to tools, because you keep co-creating. So when it comes to this tool of understanding needs and wants, is understanding that everything you want has to be connected to a need. So that's how you nurture yourself. You have to be able to express this to a child for them to understand how to nurture their needs, not expect you to do it, not them expect their friends, anyone to fulfill that, because that's actually going to always make them feel very fulfilled when they know how to nurture their own needs and be responsible of themselves, which means they get to decide how they feel, which means they get to choose an intention, and that gives them power to giving their reaction a direction. So needs are everything you have. When you sit down and you look around, you have everything you need. And if you're at a state where you say, okay, I look around, and I don't have everything I want, I have water and maybe I have a little bit of food, and I mean, I don't have much, and you connect to that lack, then you have to see the purpose behind it and be like, okay, why is this the only thing I need right now? What am I supposed to connect to? All I see is lack. How can I connect to abundance? Why is life showing me this is all I need? Because I repeat, you always have what you need, and you're always trying to connect to what you want. And wanting something means that you feel like something is missing. And that's not a bad thing. We all want something. That's part of evolution. It keeps us going. But the need has to have purpose. So if you feel like you look around and there's not enough, then you have to go within and say, okay, what am I not nurturing? And that can be even very mundane. Let's say that you only have water and a bed or a blanket, or just very simple. Okay, I have what I need. How can I get to what I want then? Well, why do you want what you want? Is it truly because you are here on Earth to experience, or is it on survival mode? If it's on survival mode, then it means that no matter how much you have and you understand that's what you need, you're going to want more with lack, with thinking that the external is controlling you, thinking that you can lose anything that's external. And this is for those children that feel like they lose control whenever no one is around them. Nothing feels like enough, because within they kind of feel a void. They feel this void of, but I need more and more and more, because they don't know how to nurture themselves. So life externally starts showing you what the lack internally is. So to get more is to fill up whatever feels like a void. Okay, what do I need to nurture? Well, I feel like the lack of abundance is because I don't love myself. Okay, so you need to nurture self-love. Why? Why don't you love yourself? What are you asking from others to love you for? And that will always be your answer. Well, I want them to love me for being kind. I'm very kind. Okay, But when are you going to love yourself for being very kind? How are you going to nurture that? What's the action to nurture that? How does it feel to be kind to yourself? Maybe you're kind to everyone else, but not yourself. So to teach a child to nurture themselves, if they're crying, if they want something, but they have to be grateful what they have right now and you want to teach them, ask them, okay, why are you crying? Speak to them not like they're an adult, but speak to them like a person. Speak to them not expecting to know the answer because you don't. Speak to them truly knowing that they're going to give you an answer, no matter how long it takes to get it, but they're going to give you an answer. So let's say a child tells you, well, I am feeling sad and I'm crying. Okay, why are you sad? Because I don't feel loved. Okay, why don't you feel loved? I just don't feel loved. Okay, what's your definition of love? Well, my definition of love are hugs. So you're crying because you feel unloved because you haven't received a hug. And if they say yes, amazing. Okay, so nurturing to you, your love language is a hug. And that's where the void is coming from. But you're over here crying. The expression is crying. The expression is I want something. Usually they go into wanting your attention, wanting a toy, wanting something very external that has nothing to do with the actual need. And that is the simplest form of what we do as adults, by the way. So what do? You understand their love language in that moment. Okay, so my child's love language is affection. So how can I teach them to understand that there are different love languages so they can see what the other love languages are without thinking that they're less or they have a lack of fulfillment because no one is giving it to them and they shouldn't depend on others for it. How can I make them independent to nurture themselves? Well, if affection is your love language, then maybe I have to find an activity where they touch things so they can feel grounded because that's what affection as a love language is. Feeling grounded, touch. So you start understanding the child's communication skills, love language, intentions, and you start guiding them how to nurture it. So they understand that they always have what they need within. They can always give it to themselves. And they won't ever have to depend on anyone. From there, they'll know how to share. They'll know how to give without thinking that giving is okay, but now I'm waiting. Where are you going to give me what I want? And they won't have to almost be connected to people that are going to just be waiting to give and receive, give and receive. Because the way life works is that you can put $1 in one place, get 3 in another, have to put 5 in another. You never know where energy is going to come from. Because energy is divinely synchronized with everything. That's why I say we're all connected. So they stop depending on the external and they depend on themselves, knowing they're everything. Internally, they have everything. Now you go into the giving and receiving, which has a lot to do with how the process of life works. Because as parents, as uncles, aunts, everything, grandparents, you have to understand that children are here to learn as well. There are teachers, but there are students of life as well. And that's the toughest part of I mean, I work with a lot of moms. That's the toughest part of a mom to understand. I think the tool that is misused the most is anxiety. And I call anxiety a tool because when we get this burst of energy is usually to be used. It's a good thing. You're getting energy. Go use it. Go figure something out. But when a child is 40 and the parent doesn't believe in themselves, that they gave the child the tools to do everything they had to do. Maybe they don't make it look the same as they would do it, but they gave them the tools, the feedback, the love, and the connection. Then you're always going to feel like they are at that age that they made you stress the most. Instead of seeing their growth, okay, they're students of life, so there's going to be moments in life where they have to polish tools, get to learn tools, and all these tools are different ones, from falling in love to losing a job, getting a job, going through career, all the normal stuff. It's normal. It's supposed to happen most of the time. It depends on the lessons that the child is here to learn. So to be able to feel connected to your child and understand the different seasons and stages as a parent, as an aunt, seeing them grow, seeing them evolve, you have to see how they're using the tools, not think that you still have to repeat it to them. It's like letting them show you. So when it comes to giving and receiving, you have to understand how to give and receive from your child as well, from your niece, from your nephew, in different forms. So, okay, give you this tool now. Okay, Alexia told me about nurturing. So if my child is having a tantrum, I'm gonna teach that my child how to nurture themselves. Okay, so you're crying. What's wrong? Well, I don't want to sleep alone. Okay, why don't you? I just don't want to. I don't understand it. Okay, you explain it to them. You might have to explain it for 3 months. Again, time, patience. So you gave them the tool, one of patience, two of listening, three of explaining, four of being there, of showing up. They know what someone showing up for them is. You give them the tool of being independent. I know you're capable of being okay. 5 tools. Let's go into age 22. You or 18. 18. You drop them off at college and they start crying. But they say, I'm just releasing. I'm scared, but I have the tool of patience towards myself. I am sad, but I have the tool of nurturing myself. And they start showing you with action because it's not usual that they're going to just tell you these things. They start showing you with action. So you, instead of connecting to the tool worry of what's going to happen, oh my God, they miss me, oh my God, you start going into that different stage and say, okay, as a parent now, instead of worrying about past tools, I'm going to see where they are here and now. I miss them too, I love them too, but I know they know how to nurture themselves. So as a parent, what you can do is check in and say, well, I know their love language is affection. Time to ask them if they've gone grounding. Well, I know part of their language is affirmation. So I'm going to ask them how they are and affirm that they have someone here to talk to. So instead of giving energy to the anxiety of not feeling like you gave them enough, you check in with their language because you already got to know their language. And the reason why I mention anyone involved with children, caregivers, aunts, uncles, everything is because for a child, everyone has an impact. Everyone, not just the parents. Everyone truly has an impact by the way they speak to them, by the way they interact with them, by the way they show up. Personally, I take very good consideration of being an aunt. Am I gonna, okay, I travel a lot, but when I show up, how am I going to communicate why I haven't been there for so long? What's going to be my love language? What's going to be my intention? When am I going to show up and how? And what are the tools I have to show up in different ways and forms when I'm not there. And I'm not saying everything is perfect. You learn along the way, and parents need to learn that they chose you. A child chose you. They could have chosen anyone else. They chose you. So when it comes to giving and receiving, you have to learn when to flip the page. When is it a new chapter with a child? And what are you giving them so you can receive it back from them? Receiving it back is noticing how they're using the tools along the way. So if something took 3 months, then let them show you for 3 months afterwards. Let them be independent. Let them show up as the humans they are. Let them show you what they're doing with that fraction of DNA you gave them. Because that's the guides always say that it's like the best teacher, it's the best healer, a child, seeing how they use it, seeing how they grow into all these tools that you gave them. It's like seeing a masterpiece, but then they add their own essence, their own authenticity, and their own fraction of light. So they even start teaching you about things that now you get to receive tools from them. And it's a beautiful exchange. So that's a huge part of being a parent and being around a child. Let the exchange happen. Embrace their wisdom. Be okay with them having wisdom. Be okay with saying sometimes, I don't know. Do you want to? I don't know the answer to that. Do you want us to study it together? I don't know about dinosaurs, but we can both read about them. I don't know about that college you want to go into. I've never heard of it. I've never heard of that career, but I mean, do you want to show me? I guess you're here to show me about that now. Instead of feeling like you need to have an answer, guide yourself with them. Let them be a guide as well. It's an equal exchange, a giving and receiving. Okay? That's very important when it comes to children. Now, let's talk about connection versus chasing. Thank you for the thumbs up. Connection versus chasing. When you're chasing something, it has a lot to do with not having an answer. When you're chasing something, you miss out on the details, and details are very important. And by the way, I'm not saying everyone has to notice every single thing. Again, they have to be independent. But chasing means that you're always trying to know better instead of knowing in the now. So you're in the future. And this is when it gets a little bit controversial because I don't believe that as humans, we should, and not controversial for me, just true the overall belief. I don't believe we should chase anything. I believe we should connect to everything because everything comes from within. If I work on my inner abundance, which is awakening my wisdom, which is understanding my value, if I become valuable by reading, by studying, by obtaining knowledge, by awakening my wisdom, I'm abundant, I'm wealthy. Then that energy I have within, I can externalize it. Wealth will be my language. Wealth will be what I see. So I connect. I don't chase it because no one's there to give it to me. And that's where independence is very important for children to understand it all comes within. You do work for it, and I'll explain. I want everyone to see life as this fraction of light is here, but you start activating these tools. So it means you polish them, you build a foundation. You have like this foundation you stand on, and when you open it up, there's all these tools that you've gathered. Those tools to be activated because they're there, you just need to activate them with action. Start giving you internally this wisdom, this value, this worthiness. It's not that it's not always there, It's that experience helps you see it, helps you sense it, helps you experience it. So when you experience life in the now, when you look around and you see everything you have and you make it enough, and you make it potential, and it activates all these tools within you, and you sense them, you're like, oh, I'm really good at being patient. Oh my God, I'm really good at being abundant. But it's in the now, it's in you because you worked on it. But if you chase it because you see it externally, and I'll give an example. Let's say that you admire someone, which is not bad, by the way. Admiring someone is good. You see an example and you're like, I like that. I like how that looks. How can I be that? But maybe how can I be that authentically? I don't have to go the same route. Maybe what I like is that tool that they're using. They're using the tool of courage. How would courage look on me? So instead of chasing what they did and going by the book, I start asking myself, what is courage for me? How does it look on me? How would I make it look? When have I been asked by life to be courageous? Just by asking yourself that question, trust me, life is going to send you the lesson. That's how it works. It just comes in. So you connect. You don't chase. You don't try to attract. You don't try. You become. So connecting is very important. So whenever your child feels like you need to chase them in a way like you don't have control, you're like, I'm chasing them, go within, connect. What are you seeing? If you see that your child is disconnected from loving you, let's say they're at that age, teenager, where they want that independence and that's their biggest resistance. You go internally and you look at your tool of mom, dad, grandfather, grandmother, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, caregiver, whatever it is. You look at that tool and you say, okay, haven't seen you in a while because I'm used to you. And I've been using you for 14 years, 13 years. What am I supposed to polish you on now? Because I don't get it. Instead of going external and chasing, because when you chase, usually the energy's tense, you hoard, you're like, come on, it's like very controlling. You connect and you ask yourself, okay, what do I need in this tool? Well, they're asking for space. Tool one, space. They're asking to listen, for me to listen before I give instructions. Okay, that's new. They're asking for a conversation, not an opinion. Okay, that's new. You start understanding, connecting, not chasing, because chasing is going to be very frigid and make you almost want to be right. And when you're connecting, you surrender, you accept, and you say, okay, what can I do with what I have? Because I have what I need. And if I want to trust their words, okay, they say I don't understand them. Very common in teenagers. They say I don't understand them. They say I don't listen to them. Well, what am I not understanding? Well, maybe I'm not understanding that maybe they don't understand themselves. So how can I ask someone to be decisive if they don't understand themselves? So if I go into my wisdom, not my memory box, there's two different things here. Wisdom, I don't know why they're saying I have to say this. Wisdom is very connected to the jaw. When you use wisdom with control, because of memory, because of fear, the jaw or the stomach because of emotion, it's affected. So wisdom is to be spoken, but speech, expression can be done through action as well. So usually at that age or any age where someone feels misunderstood, you connect with them, again, by knowing their love language, by respecting their space, but also by being very honest and understanding at what maturity are they stepping into. When someone is becoming a teenager, they're stepping into this type of maturity where they want to be right. They want to have a say in their life for the first time. So you let them at things that really wouldn't hurt them. And the bigger things, you action by connecting to their language, their love language. Okay, I'm listening, but let's both use a tool. Let's agree to disagree. And I'll tell you why. My wisdom, you teach them respect because you're respecting them. You're listening and you're saying, okay, I'm giving room to your opinion. I'm not dismissing it. I'm giving it room. I'm giving it a space to exist, to coexist with mine. But let's see how they might be able to combine. Let's see how we can both learn because it's teamwork. So you start adding to the tools and you keep the connection. You don't chase them because that's what they're going to do. They're going to run. And running doesn't mean, oh, I'm running away or I don't love you or no, running means that emotionally they're going to disconnect. And that's when then you see an inner child that has a lot of pain from feeling not accepted. But it wasn't that they weren't not accepted as a child, is that they were trying to be guided with a belief system that maybe didn't fit them. That's all it is. It's actually very simple. But the communication is being complicated. So you have to connect and stay connected, not chase with the belief system. And this is very important when it comes to any type of connection. Even at work, don't chase work, connect. So embrace your wisdom. Embrace what you're really good at. Give yourself that permission to say, wait, I have this. Why am I chasing it? Maybe it's a pattern of years. Maybe I've always been chasing it. So I don't know how to just sit down and have it. So that's the new lesson. How do I just have it? Because the way seasons in life work is that there's a season where you have to put in the energy. You have to invest. And that investment is the work, the oh my God, I woke up at 4 a.m. and I went to sleep at 10 and people call it survival, but in reality it's an investment. It's learning how to use energy. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm done with that stage. It's the next season. Well, the next season is the how to preserve. How do I preserve this energy? So you let yourself flow, but you stay connected to yourself. You don't just look up and chase what you like because I want it. You stay connected to your needs. And as you stay connected to your needs, your wants start to just connect slowly. And that's what you need to teach a child, how to stay connected to their needs so that the wants walk into their life. Because everything we want that's in our imagination is truly meant for us. It is, it's a potential. We all have potentials. We all have the highest potential, the middle potential, however you want to put it. But you always have to meet your needs. You always have to nurture yourself. Because once you do that, you have enough energy, you have enough everything, and you're still connected with yourself. that everything's only going to connect because it's part of you. So teaching a child that is teaching them how to not run away emotionally, because they tend to do that with parents without even noticing. Running away emotionally can be almost like playing the role of victim, of feeling like parents owe them something, or playing the role of villain, attacking parents all the time. And it doesn't always happen, but those are the most common ones. So emotional connection, energy in motion, has to always stay connected. And I can say I've had many clients where their parents aren't in the picture, but they are connected at an emotional level now because they made peace and they've given the story a purpose so that they can understand what was the lack of fulfillment and they can nurture that fulfillment themselves. Because at the end of the day, there comes an age where your child, your niece, your nephew is going to become their own inner parent. And they're going to truly go through the process of saying, okay, I had everything I needed, but I didn't want certain things from my parents. It only means I have to become responsible of those wants. It wasn't their responsibility. They weren't supposed to read my mind or know better a phrase that it's used and it shouldn't be used. They were just meeting my needs. I chose them as parents. So they showed me what I had to learn. Now that I know what I want, I have to give it to myself so they become their inner parents. They start nurturing themselves. And that independence will always bring in that connection with parents. The connection won't be external of I want, I want, I want. It'll be like, oh, I understand why I need you. I understand why you're my parent. I do need you. But they'll need you at different stages of their life for the reasons of the stage. For example, if if a son is going, I don't know, the first example they give me is going to travel. And he's like, okay, I meet my needs. I have the money, I have the safety, I have the plan, I have everything. But I still feel like I need a hug from my mom. I still feel like I need advice from my dad. I still feel like I need to go visit my grandma because it just feels nice. It's a need. They won't want anything. They'll have their needs met. They'll be responsible of themselves, which will give them a lot of fulfillment. And they've given you all the tools, but they'll still need you. Thank you, Selena. Thank you for being here. So Selena has to head out, but I read the message. Thank you for sending it direct. I'm sorry, I thought it was in the group. But okay. So the needs and the wants. So you start understanding your true responsibility as a parent, as anything involved with the child, is not to make them want you. Oh my God, I want you. Where are you? Dependent. To make them so independent that they understand truly why they need you. And this process is not about, um, how can I say it? Is not about giving them exactly all the tools at once. It's about understanding in the stages what tools they need because they're going to be asking for them. It's going to be very obvious throughout the process. And the more you connect to understanding your own needs, it's going to be very obvious what their needs are because the first 7 years of a child's life, they're your reflection. Whatever you feel, they feel, whatever you're going through, they feel they're going through. And it doesn't mean that it's a burden if you're having a bad day. It means it's a connection. So a bad day can be a beautiful lesson that it has a beautiful purpose. You can make it a new tool. You can say, oh my God, I've had a bad day, feeling frustrated, I can't do this. Okay, my motivation is it's my child. So what do? I understand this feeling. Why am I frustrated? Because I keep the same pattern over and over again, keep blaming others. Okay, how do I take responsibility? I have to start believing in myself. No one has believed in me, but I'm not a victim. So how am I going to nurture this? Well, I'm going to be my biggest fan, and I'm going to show myself that tomorrow I will wake up and do what I said I was going to do. So today's purpose of having a bad day is that I had to wake up and notice that a bad day is not about others and blaming others. It's about me and how responsible I am of me. How can I give that to me? Because my life is not going to be about others. You doing that in your mind, shifting the energy and giving it purpose, has an effect on your child, has an effect, and it truly makes the connection already give them a tool that is going to be activated and it's going to be natural in them. They might have to polish it. They might need reassurance sometimes, but they'll have that connection. So everyone connect, don't chase, don't attract, connect so you can keep co-creating so that what you did yesterday counts. And you're not trying to manifest the next thing that is so external that you're like obsessed about it. No, stay connected to everything you've been co-creating. It's a little cycle that keeps going and growing and growing and growing. And out of nowhere, you're in a space where you couldn't think of it coming so fast. It was just in your imagination not too long ago. That's co-creation and that's connection. And that's how a child is. Out of nowhere, they start growing and growing. You're like, wait, I am connected. I've been co-creating this with their own co-creation. It's magical. It's magic. So it's a beautiful thing to take in so beautifully, so gracefully, and be okay with the responsibility. Responsibility is a beautiful thing. It's not heaviness, it's not bad, because it gives us purpose. As humans, we need responsibility to feel purpose. It's always been that way, and it will always be that way. We're gonna head back to our spirit and tell it all the stories about how beautiful it is to eat, to cry, to love, to everything. And a child is here for that too. So let's make space for this new language they have. Let's make space for this new way of communication. Let's make space. They need space. They need time. They need words, and they need their own love language. So thank you so much, everyone. I think I went over the time. It was just supposed to be 30 minutes, but I didn't even look at the time. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. This will be linked on my Linktree on Instagram. In case you want to rewatch, in case you want to send it to anyone, feel free to do so. I think right now our biggest focus is children. Let's give them all the love they deserve. Let's give them all the independence they need to really expand and become everything they can expand. We don't want them depending on us as adults. We want them to show us what they got. They can do it. Always make your child feel powerful. They're powerful. Give them that, yeah, you're powerful. You maybe need to work on things like we all do, but use that power for that. And it'll be beautiful. So thank you everyone for being here, and I'll stop recording because we don't want this to get lost.